In the last video, we finished talking about this script block and how to construct this script block, but there are several notes that are very, very important that I want to spend some time on here. So first of all, let's talk about this EQ and the difference between it and the like. We're going to use like when we have wildcards. We cannot use EQ when we have wildcards. So let's see what I mean by that. Let's take a look over here at the last command we had. We had a get service where object filter status equals running. And you notice that the equal means exactly the word running. But what happens if I take some of these characters out and put a wildcard in its place? Well, I get nothing in return because none of them equals RUN and then asterisk. So RUN asterisk is not one of the statuses. However, let's change this EQ now to the word like. And that works fine. So I can use these wildcards with the word like. I cannot use them with equal. Equal is only used for exact matches. I said that I would talk about this single quote here. You would use single quotes in most cases. When you want an exact match, use a single quote. You would use double quotes if you want to put, say, a variable or what we call an escape character, like a new line character. I'm not going to get into those right now, but trust me, we have such things. If I wanted to put a variable inside of this, I could do that if I use double quotes. I cannot do it if I use single quotes. So single quotes for exact matches is always the best policy. Double quotes if you want to put variables inside of it to represent something else. Where object is often substituted for its alias where, and where object is often substituted with the alias question mark. So we can build them in different ways we're going to look at in just a moment. The filter parameter is positional, position 0. Therefore, you can leave that out. You don't need that word filter when you construct it. The $_ looks at each object one at a time, similar to a for next loop. Now, if you're familiar with programming, you have seen for next loops. If not, then this won't have any meaning to you, but don't worry about it. It just means it's a loop, and as we said earlier, each time it loops through, this represents the current object. Any object that compares as false is dropped from the pipeline. Okay, it should be fairly straightforward. So given all this stuff, let's look at different ways that we can create this command. I'm going to expand this page right here. Here's the long version. Here's the way we did it just a little while ago. Get service where object filter, and then the current object status is equal to running. Right? So that is the long version. However, we could shorten it by adding an alias. So instead of where object, we can put the alias question mark. We can also leave out the word filter because that's a positional parameter, so I don't need it. And so then I get this line, which as you can see is quite a bit shorter than this line up here. Here's another version. Instead of question mark, I use the word where. So quite often you'll see this construction. So get service where status equals running. Fairly simple. Actually almost reads like English, right? Get service where status equals running. Or even shorter, I can do the GSV for get service, and now I've left out the filter parameter. I've used the alias for where object, the short alias for where object, and I've used the alias for get service. So now GSV question mark status equals running, and that's about the shortest I can get it. All right, yeah, I guess that's about it for this one. Be sure and look this over. I haven't mentioned these things before. At the bottom of pretty much all of my notes, I have these little tables of all the new stuff that you should kind of know about, or symbols and commands and so forth. All right, that's about it for this chapter.